You're gonna be waterworks like crazy. That's the good stuff there. Yay! Yay!
Chipper Jones is just the latest of a group of stars who paved their way to Cooperstown together. The triad of aces. The sage in the dugout. The architect upstairs. All of them were at the core of a dynasty that ran off one of the greatest streaks in sports history.
Let the celebrating begin, folks. 14 consecutive division titles for your Atlanta Braves.
And now, more than a decade after their remarkable run, the scope of their achievement only feels bigger.
Never going to happen again. That's pretty much the easy part.
You know, a lot of people have been putting a team in the 90s on us, and I really believe we're very competitive for the next 10, 15 years.
Tom Glavine has 20, and the Braves have won 100 games.
You go into spring training every year with the mentality that, okay, you can't make any plans in October because we're going to be in the postseason.
Congratulations, never gets old, does it?
Nah, champagne baths are nice.
People wanted to come here and play, and I think that's something to be extremely proud of.
It was just the mindset. We knew we were going to win the division. That was kind of a given, and it was just a matter of fact of, you know, how well are we going to do in the postseason.
I think when people look at our teams, they'll talk about the 14 division titles, but it always ends with, yeah, but they only won one World Series.
Can we be honest here? Let's be honest here. The Braves easily should have won 5 more World Series than they did.
Most people consider the Braves to be the team of the 90s. Did you really feel you needed to win a World Series this year to validate that?
Not really, Bob. I don't know if it validates anything.
This is interesting. As time goes on, what the Braves didn't do becomes less important as opposed to what they did do.
To truly appreciate what the Atlanta Braves accomplished starting in the 1990s, you have to remember what the franchise looked like in the 80s.
I remember the baby blue unis. I remember some very likable players. They had a couple of good years in the early 80s, but man, there were a lot of lean years.
Drive towards right center, and it's misplayed by Oakland McDowell.
The modern history of the Braves really began in 1976 when Ted Turner bought the team, in part to eat up programming time on his cable superstation, TBS. But what a national audience saw was a team that from 1986 to 1990 averaged 96 losses a season and never finished higher than next to last.
Tom Glavine had the great description of that. He said when he first got here, it would be 95 degrees, there'd be 5,000 people in the stands, and they'd be 25 games out of first place.
A drive to left field. Lonnie Smith can only watch it as it's out of here. A home run.
They were kind of a TV show in a sense, you know, that they still were on TBS.
Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team.
People would pay attention to them, but it was almost like they watched for comic relief.
Come see the big league team with Little League spirit, and hey, we're in Atlanta.
Ted Turner was a media revolutionary, but the eccentric mogul was far from a baseball man, which even he acknowledged when he fired one of the very best of them in 1981.
I went to the press conference, and, you know, Ted was the most fun guy in the world.
Somebody asked him, what would you be looking for in a manager? He said, well, I'd be looking for somebody like Bobby Cox if I just hadn't fired the guy. And then, virtually at his first possible chance, he brought him back, only not as a manager. He brought him back as a general manager.
I have a wealth of things to learn, I'm sure. Hopefully I won't make any giant mistakes. I was probably overmatched, never did anything like that. But I knew the game of baseball. I knew how important the farm system was. We had a 5-year plan, and it took 5 years.
As Cox's 5-year plan took shape in the minors at the end of the 80s, the big league club continued to wallow in the cellar.
When I come to the big leagues in 1989, the climate wasn't conducive for success.
Look at those numbers. They're wearing out the scoreboard.
Whereas when I was in the minor leagues with Gant and Blauser and Glavin, and then Smoltz comes in 88, what I was seeing was this young group of guys that really enjoyed playing with each other, that got along very well, and we all could play.
Looking to jumpstart some success in the majors, Cox put himself back in the dugout in 1990, leaving an opening in the front office. The job would be filled by a man who'd once built a World Series winner, former Royals GM John Schuerholz. And before the 1991 season, Schuerholz signed a group of veterans to supplement the team's collection of young talent.
I don't think over the winter anybody said, well, now we got the makings of a championship ball club. But I think defensively is really where things turned around. Picking up Sid Brain, Rafael Belliard, Terry Pendleton. I think our pitchers were there. Now you just need somebody to catch the ball.
We've all come up pretty much together. So we've all kind of gone through the same things together, and hopefully in the near future we're all going to be together and be part of a winning team.
About midway through spring training, I'm standing on the back field. Terry Pendleton walks up to me and he says, John, he said, we're going to have a lot of fun around here. This is going to be a talented team, and we're going to surprise a lot of people.
We are not going to be the Braves of old. We're not going to be those guys. We're a much better team. I said, I believe we're a team that could do something positive and win this division.
Sure enough, the Braves got off to a solid start and then stayed in the hunt for an unlikely division title all year as the surprise of baseball.
Now here's this Atlanta Braves team, perennial losing organization. There's no way they can hold on. We're looking around the clubhouse going, man, bring on the Dodgers, bring on the Reds, bring on San Francisco, bring them all, because we're going to knock them all down. And it was some of the most exciting baseball of my life.
High and deep to right field. Tony Gwynn looks up. This ball is gone. The Braves have tied it up.
The most exciting year ever for me in baseball was 1991.
High chop! Braves win! Listen to this crowd.
Fulton County Stadium was packed every night.
There's the 3-1 delivery. Fly ball deep right center field. Back goes Butler. This ball is gone.
Not only did we sneak up on the Dodgers and the Reds, we snuck up on the Atlanta crowds. And they saw something magical happen. We were winning games we shouldn't win. We had this youthful approach to baseball that was fresh and different. And then the chop.
Foam tomahawks became the thing that people would buy. I mean, they were selling them at gas stations. You were mounting them in the back of your car. It was like everybody all at once got transfixed by a team that a year before nobody even knew existed.
This team was drawing nobody. Now they pack the ballpark most every night.
It was phenomenal. It was an incredible momentum that was actually responsible for carrying us through the end of the season.
Incredibly, the Braves went from last place to win the NL West, and then beat the Pirates in a memorable 7-game NLCS.
And John Smoltz has pitched Atlanta into the World Series.
There, they'd face the Minnesota Twins in the first Fall Classic matchup of worst-to-first clubs in history. The result was one for the ages.
Here comes Justice.
For me, it was one of the greatest World Series of all time because of the games that were played, the extra inning games, the last bat wins.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Game 7 of that World Series, when Jack Morris and John Smoltz hooked up in that classic duel. I've never seen a better World Series game to this day in my life.
The two aces threw shutout ball for 7 innings. Then in the 8th, the Braves got Lonnie Smith on first, bringing the soon-to-be-named 1991 NL MVP to the plate.
Handled it into left center field. That ball is down and off the wall.
When I hit the double, I was like, yeah, we're up 1-0. And I look over at third base, and Lonnie's standing at third base.
Lonnie Smith is held up at third, and he didn't do very good base running. That was terrible by Lonnie.
I was like, you know, what happened?
He may have gone for the decoy around second.
Oh, he was deked. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
And look, he looked at Knobloch. You see Gagne and Knobloch combining for the decoy.
My attitude was, we're second and third, nobody out. Okay, we're fine. Let's go. We got Gant and Justice and Sid Bream coming up. Are you kidding me? This is what we've done all year long.
Oh, we're scoring right now. I mean, you couldn't tell me we weren't scoring, but we don't score.
And the play is to Hall. Out there. Out there.
When you get to the World Series, the team that makes the least amount of mistakes is going to always be the team that wins. No matter how much momentum, no matter how great you're playing, every pitch, every inning, every moment is so important, and you can't give the other team an opening.
The Twins have won it. It's a 1-0 10-inning victory.
When it was all said and done, and we were done and drained and looked back, it was unreal what we had accomplished. And we knew it was only the beginning.
Bobby Cox makes his way out of the Atlanta dugout.
My favorite story about Bobby involves Dougie. So we were in a game, and it was a little John back and forth, both dugouts with the umpire. I said to Craig, I said, hey, is this umpire bad tonight or what's the deal? He goes, no, he's really not that bad. And it wasn't a minute later, Bobby asked Dougie the same question. Greg, without missing a beat, oh, Bobby, he's terrible. He's missed so many calls. Next inning, it wasn't 2 pitches into the inning. Boom, pitch happens. Somebody says something. Bobby goes off.
Manager Bobby Cox has just been kicked out of the game.
I only got him thrown out of 1 game as far as I remember, but I think Smoltzy and Glab, multiple games.
Coming off their surprising World Series appearance in 1991, the Braves looked to return to October in 1992. And as the club worked to improve its roster, the front office almost made a deal that could have changed baseball history.
We were looking to improve our hitting, found out that Bonds might be available, and we agreed on a deal.
John had a deal, one of the greatest players, position guys in baseball.
And so I called that morning just to be certain. Ted Simmons, general manager with the Pittsburgh Pirates, said, John, we've got a problem. When I explained to Jim Leland what we had done, he went berserk. And Ted understood that he couldn't go forward with the deal, even though we had agreed.
You know, what can you say? I mean, Barry's hit more home runs than any player in the history of the game.
Who knows? What would happen? I mean, you never know. We might have won 4 in a row with Barry.
Meanwhile, David Justice emerged as his own roster issue in spring training, when the star outfielder campaigned for a new contract.
We go out to work out every day to do our stretching and running, and Dave would walk out right on by us. I grabbed Dave, I said, hey, let's go back inside and talk. I said, I'm here to help you pack your stuff right now. I said, you got talent enough to be the MVP in this league, but we can't have the Dave Justice that we have right now. For us to do what we need to do, we need you, but we can't have you disrupting us.
Soon after that, Justice and the Braves agreed to a 1-year deal, and America's team got set to try to live up to their billing.
We were starting to prove that we were no longer the fluke. We had a solid, good team that was going to compete year in and year out.
Fun in 91, the dream comes true in 92.
There was something about them that was almost magnetic.
A lot of celebrities on hand tonight.
We were gaining a following all over the country.
We'd go to Houston, and there'd be more Brave fans than Houston Astro fans.
This was, and always has been, a town of flash. Give us something exciting. The Braves kind of fit right into that, because in 92, you know, you got Deion Sanders, not only with the Falcons, but he got in with the Braves.
There's Neon, prime time.
Deion played 2 sports, one of the best athletes in the world. I mean, to be able to play football and play baseball at the professional level, that tells you what type of talent that Deion had.
Never seen a talent quite like that.
There wasn't a curtain call from Deion.
The chop thing started one evening with Deion Sanders, you know, from Florida State.
He came from Florida State, and that's how a lot of that got started.
Love him. Oh man, it was constant comedy. I can just remember seeing him out there in center field when I was playing left, and I'd have a good play, and he'd be out there, Chipper Joe. I mean, just screaming it in center field.
The Braves won 98 games in 1992, cruising to their second straight NL West title.
When it happened last year, they said it was a miracle. The Braves couldn't do it again. Ladies and gentlemen, they have.
Once again, the Pittsburgh Pirates were waiting for them in the NLCS. The Braves jumped out to a 3-1 series lead. But then, the Pirates evened the series and took a 2-0 lead into the 9th inning of Game 7.
I felt like, how in the world are we going to lose a series that we were up 3-1?
You know, I'm sitting there wondering, is this going to be the final game of the year? Was 91 our lost chance? You know, was that the only chance we're going to get?
My print column was about how the Braves were going to rue this lost opportunity, you know, the rest of their lives. I called the desk to make sure they got it. And right as we were talking, Terry Pendleton led off the bottom of the 9th with a double in the right field corner.
And it is indeed now or never for the Braves.
And I remember yelling into the phone, don't run this if they win.
The Braves got Pendleton home and loaded the bases down 2-1. And with 2 out and the season hanging in the balance, they sent an unlikely name to the plate.
Francisco Cabrera comes to the plate to bat for the pitcher. He appeared in only 12 games this year for the Braves.
One thing Francisco could do was swing the bat. That's why he was there.
Listen, Francisco Cabrera could always rake.
Just as they score the tying run, Breed to the plate.
Sid was sneaky quick.
Anybody that says that Sid Bream was sneaky fast is lying. They are lying, which makes what he did even more astounding.
And he is saved! Saved at the plate! The Braves go to the World Series!
It was pandemonium.
It was unbelievable.
One of the most exciting plays in the history of our franchise, for sure, maybe in all of baseball.
You know, after the Bream game, you thought, well, you know, they're never going to lose. They're going to win this World Series. They're going to win every World Series for the next 50 years. And then it didn't quite happen.
92, when we went in to play the Blue Jays, right off top, I knew we were playing a team just as good as us.
I can honestly say, in looking across the field, that team's as good as we are, if not better.
The Toronto Blue Jays are baseball's best in 1992.
People always talk about destination, and people always talk, hey, it's not the destination, it's the journey. Now, we're losing at the end of the year, but the journey is incredible. We just can't put that cherry on top yet.
How long are they gonna worship this guy?
Hey, we got Cy Young winners over here.
I'm jealous. I haven't let it go. Chicks dig the long ball. It's not like I think your acting skills were off the charts.
You know, we didn't wear hats in that commercial. Maybe it had to do something without you couldn't wear a hat.
Hi, Tom.
Chicks dig the long ball.
Neither of these guys that hit a home run, I had all the power.
Hey, have you guys seen Mark?
You guys seen Mark?
After 1992, the Braves were still looking to add pieces to get that elusive World Series championship, and they got a huge one in reigning Cy Young Award winner Greg Maddux.
Do you know how much stress is taken off your shoulders when Maddux walks through the door?
I'd love to help this team win the World Series.
For me, it was just the mindset, and I noticed it in spring training. You're here to win.
You
kind of sit back for a minute and you take stock and you think, man, we had a pretty good pitching rotation. Now it's really good.
Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz. It's amazing.
The big three, they set the tone for us, because if you start the year with those three guys at the top of your rotation, you get a chance to win any series you play.
The Braves starters are all interchangeable in that they could all be #1 starters on any given day.
We all knew it was going to be pretty good. But, I mean, it basically became the greatest rotation ever.
The Hall of Fame trio would spend a decade as teammates, compiling 5 Cy Young Awards and 15 All-Star appearances.
It was the greatest 10-year run, not just statistically, just from a standpoint of how much fun we had.
They had a ton of fun together. I think when they weren't pitching, they were part of a foursome playing golf.
When I first came over, we were in the hotel in Pittsburgh, and it was about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was down there getting a coffee, and Bobby was down there, and he goes, "What are you doing? How come you're not out golfing?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Get out, go play golf, have fun, get away from the game."
Get there, Smoltzy.
Be able to be around guys as long as we were and know each other as well as we did, both mechanically, performance-wise, but also mentally and what made us tick. Man, it was nice having that extra set of eyes and those extra coaches, so to speak.
But even with their dominant pitching, the Braves started 1993 slowly. And the San Francisco Giants, led by a familiar MVP face who'd now gone west, led Atlanta by 10 games in July.
Barry comes into the All-Star game in '93. I can hear him down the hall right now. "Hey, DJ, y'all done? Y'all not catching us?"
But just after the All-Star break, the Braves boosted their offense, acquiring slugging first baseman Fred McGriff from the San Diego Padres.
You're looking at our team like we have no deficiencies. We don't. We just got to go win.
The day they got Fred McGriff, all of a sudden we just hear all this commotion. You know, we go out on the field and we look up and the press box is on fire.
Ted Turner came down on the field and was standing near me and said, "Tonight, the stadium caught on fire, and so too are the Braves."
To center field and deep. Welcome to Atlanta, Fred McGriff.
Something could be going on here. You figured that this is a magical moment, and it was.
They're the hottest team in the Western Division right now.
The second half, we just came out, and we were unstoppable.
Just a miraculous second half. Now they trail the San Francisco Giants by 3.5 ball games.
I'd never forget going to that series in August in San Francisco when Fred McGriff and I go back-to-back.
Back-to-back solo shots, Justice and McGriff.
We were just letting them know, if you're going to go to the playoffs, you got to come through us, period.
The pennant race came down to the final day of the season, with the Braves and Giants tied atop the NL West with 103 wins each, and no wild card available yet.
Glavine beat Colorado on the last day of the regular season.
Scoreboard watching will be the order of the day.
And the Braves sat around and watched as the Giants lost to the Dodgers.
The Braves won 104 to win the Battle of the West from San Francisco.
You guys are getting good at this.
Yes, we are. But there's one celebration we still want to get, and that's the World Series championship.
But when the Braves went to the NLCS to play the Philadelphia Phillies, it was clear the long pennant race had taken a toll.
Every game seemed like from August on, every game was a playoff game for us. I mean, literally taking the starch out of us by the time we got to the playoffs against the Phillies.
He struck him out! And the Philadelphia Phillies have won the National League pennant.
You win 104 games with that pitching? Okay, and that hitting? And they lose to an out-of-shape, overweight Phillies team in the NLCS? This makes no sense.
Now with each year, the pressure builds to win something we haven't won in the city's history. Pressure mounts and it gets a little bit more difficult to do the thing you want to do.
After 3 straight postseason appearances, any hope for a World Series title in 1994 for the Atlanta Braves, or any team in baseball, all collapsed in August of that year, when a strike cut the season short. Then, when the '95 season started, the pressure on the Braves to finally win a world championship was greater than ever.
You get into '95, it's not about winning the division. It's not about getting to the playoffs. It's about winning the whole thing.
That luster that we had in 1991 and '95, now it's World Series championship or you gotta suck.
If they don't get it tonight, they're gonna be in trouble tomorrow.
At that time in football, the Buffalo Bills were trying to win a Super Bowl, and they lost 4 Super Bowls. And you start hearing people say, is this the Buffalo Braves?
Pressure is building, isn't it, that year?
Not for me.
The young star of the Braves, Chipper Jones, a shot deep to right.
He's had a tremendous rookie year.
He is just a rookie, but he plays so much older.
Rookie star Chipper Jones was a key part of a Braves club that dominated the NL East, winning the division by 21 games. Then the drive for a World Series title began with a matchup with the first ever National League wildcard, the Rockies.
The Rockies were an awfully good team, the best lineup we had seen in a long time in the National League, and we were able to win that series.
And they'll go to Cincinnati for the National League Championship Series.
And move on and play the Reds, but we swept them.
The Atlanta Braves have capped a masterful performance in the National League Championship Series.
That team had been there enough, and with the addition of Chipper, they were ready to go. And you got the feeling that postseason they were not going to lose.
We're going to bring it home to Atlanta. First World Championship in Atlanta.
The Atlanta Braves still seeking that elusive first World Championship, appearing now for the 3rd time in 5 years in the World Series. Can this team get over the top in 1995?
The last obstacle would be the Cleveland Indians, another club loaded with offense.
It's a team with a lot of power, a lot of speed, and a .291 collective batting average.
Albert Pale, got a young Manny Ramirez, young Tommy. Looking at their lineup, you really felt like our pitchers better be on top of their game.
Behind Maddox and Glavine, games 1 and 2 followed the Braves script perfectly.
Nobody in baseball can carve up a lineup like Greg Maddox. Inside corner, outside corner, it's a clinic.
Giving chases Jones, and he makes the catch to give the Braves the win.
Called strike 3. 2 strikeouts in the inning. It's 2-0 Atlanta. That adage about good pitching stopping good hitting has never been truer than in this postseason.
The Braves have a 2-0 lead as they head to Cleveland.
And they will truly be rocking and rolling in that ballpark and in that city.
You go to Cleveland, and just like in 1991 where there was enthusiasm for the Braves, it was in Cleveland. Everywhere you went in Cleveland, you saw Indians and office buildings, signs on windows.
The last time the Cleveland Indians won a World Series game, the term rock and roll had not even been invented yet.
They hadn't been to the World Series in forever. So their fans looked like our fans in '91. The atmosphere was incredible.
And bolstered by their fans, the Indian bats came to life at home.
He lines it into center. The Indians are back in the World Series. It is gone! This place was all charged up tonight. The city was charged up. It was a different story in Atlanta, despite the fact that the Braves won 2 there. The crowd noise was rather subdued.
Cleveland won 2 of their 3 games at home, keeping themselves alive and forcing the series back to Atlanta. Game 6 was approaching, with the Braves close. But the storyline was changing around them.
It was off day, so the media, of course, is in my locker, and Oral Hershiser had made some comments about all the pressure being on us.
I think the pressure is on them because they definitely have something to lose.
They've shown they haven't done it.
Atlanta fans are probably wondering what's going on.
Which, to me, is not sitting well at all.
People are going to say, you know, Atlanta can't win the big one. That's what everybody's going to say. You know what I mean? I know y'all can't wait to say it tomorrow.
And I don't know what prompted me to say we need our fans to be there for us. They're acting like it's a tennis match. Come in the next day, Justice slams Braves fans. Oh, really? Okay, all right.
David coming out and saying, it's great here in Cleveland, you know, it's definitely not like it was in Atlanta, probably got turned around, but they let them have it.
David, why did you kind of lash out on the fans?
Well, I wouldn't say that I even lashed out at them, to tell you the truth. All I'm saying is that it's not the same as it was in the past. That's all.
Justice making headlines in the Atlanta papers this morning, criticizing Braves fans for being considerably less enthusiastic than they were in the World Series in 1991.
When David said those words to me, my first response was, oh boy, that's going to be interesting.
The feeling that you have 50,000 people rooting against you in your home stadium in your third attempt to win a World Series where you're 0-2 already, with the cloud of being the Buffalo Bills of baseball, but yet you still got to come out and perform and try to help your team win one game. I remember saying, God, you've put me in a lot of tough situations in my life, and you've always brought me out. Please bring me out of this one. That's what the God does. Please bring me out of this one.
Pressure for the Atlanta Braves was at an all-time high, but victory was tantalizingly close. Win Game 6 of the 1995 World Series, and they could finally call themselves world champions.
Glavine trying to put the final piece in place for the team of the 90s.
I don't think we ever approached it as, hey, we've got to do something to get this monkey off our back. I think we just looked at it as, man, we've had some opportunities to win a World Series and we haven't done it. Don't know how many more opportunities we're going to get. We got to take advantage of one of these.
And if he comes through tonight, he could be at the center of the biggest baseball celebration in Atlanta history. Struck him out. It was quiet here in Atlanta for the opening two games. You can see the difference immediately in the top of the first here in Game 6.
Justice got their attention.
He punches him out. Got him swinging for his second strikeout of the inning and his third in the first two frames.
You had Jim Thome, Manny Ramirez, Albert Bell, and you're thinking, Tom, how are you going to navigate through this lineup?
Struck him out. 7 strikeouts through 5.
Especially when we're not doing nothing for you. They're matching us every inning. We're not getting anything going here.
McGriff is over lots of foul ground here, and he's got it. Still no score.
Tommy, after the 6th inning, told him, get me one, just one, and I've got it.
He goes, all I need is one, boys. He knew that he had it, and he knew he was in control all night.
I can't say it was the only time I've ever said it in my career, but certainly at that point in time, I felt good about what I was doing, but also I think it was to try and get a reaction and kind of get guys fired up a little bit.
The truth, though, was that the first Atlanta batter to hit in the bottom of the 6th after Glavine's challenge needed no added incentive to come through.
Now batting number 23, right fielder, David Justice. Boo!
Mixed reception. When he was first introduced before the game, nothing but boos. Now as he comes to the plate, a mixture of boos and cheers.
But I hear a couple people clapping. I do. And as soon as I heard people clap, I said, okay, I'm going to play for them people tonight.
He is better when he's nervous. He's better when he's pissed off. And I think he was all of those things that night.
A long drive to right. Ramirez turns to the track. She's gone. Dave Justice, all is forgiven in Atlanta.
It's okay to talk the talk if you can walk the walk.
You talk about a shock. It's like you knew what was happening, and then David's the one that hits the home run. You couldn't have written that any better.
Just the magnitude of one swing.
The biggest swing in the history of this organization, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, there's my run. Now I better stand up to my big mouth when I said just get me one.
Glavine is working on a masterpiece for the Braves. Strikeout number 8 for Glavine. The most feared offense in baseball, held to 1 hit.
Tom Glavine ultimately silenced the Indians for 8 innings in one of the biggest games in franchise history. Then, getting the final 3 outs would rest on the shoulders of closer Mark Wohlers.
An inning away from the end of a 5-year quest for the Atlanta Braves.
Woe was on top of his game that year, and I think we all knew when Glav got through 8, even though they had the top of their order coming up, that Woe was going to shut it down.
A blooper and foul ground, Belliard racing over, backhanded grab.
When Rafael Belliard caught that ball in foul territory, I said, that's it. We're going to win this World Series. That's it.
When you think about what we hadn't done in the pressure building, leaving spring training with such pressure, such expectation, such criticism of these are the next Buffalo Bills, 95 was like the steam blowing a cap off.
1 out away.
You flash back to 91 and 92 and 93 and the disappointments we had in those years, and a lot of those guys were still there. This makes it that much more special.
The wind and the pitch, here it is. One, fly ball, deep left center.
Your goal is to always win a World Series. And I think to finally see Marquise Grissom run that ball down in left center.
Oh, I'm sorry, I get chill bumps now just thinking about it.
Grissom on the run.
As soon as I saw Marquise ground it off, there it is. It's chills, man. He catches it, and brother, you don't even know.
The team of the 90s has its world championship.
Can't get enough of that feeling of running on the field and dogpiling.
It's hard to describe. I mean, the greatest feeling in the world.
The Atlanta Braves have brought the first championship to Atlanta.
It was a great moment in the history of Atlanta's professional sports to this day. Still the only professional major league team to win a world championship.
Finally, we didn't leave doors open. We didn't leave doors cracked. Finally, we had put it all together.
And finally, the one missing piece is in place.
In 1996, finally able to call themselves World Series champions, the Braves rolled through the NL East again, winning 96 games for their 6th straight division title, all the while looking towards the playoffs as a chance to further cement their legacy.
Phase 1 is complete.
We're looking forward to the playoffs, and we should have everybody clicking real good.
I'll never forget 96. I mean, after winning in 95, everyone said, well, that's probably it. They're not going to get back. We got right back in 96.
The Braves would face the Yankees in the 96 series. And when it began, Atlanta looked like a perfectly tuned October machine, thanks to some new faces amid the familiar ones.
Long drive into left field. Andruw Jones. Another home run for Andruw Jones. After a 12-1 win last night, game number 2 belongs to Atlanta, 4-0.
Oh, they're playing at a level I've never seen. Even by their standards, they were just tearing it up.
Atlanta leads the series 2-0, and this series heads back to Fulton County Stadium.
After really dominating them the first 2 games, I mean, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to win a World Series my first 2 years in the league. This team can't beat us.
The Braves are just too hot right now.
I'm looking forward to a sweep. We're going to spank those Yanks, send them back home.
There's no doubt about it that the Braves are about to win back-to-back World Series championships and go on this run of the century.
But just like the game of baseball always does, it's going to humble you. Right when you think you got it licked, it's going to punch you in the gut. The first punch was David Cone. Game 3, he pitched a whale of a game.
David Cone, he gave the Yankees the start they needed.
Game 4 was the one. You know, we go out and, 6-0, and then all of a sudden, the Yankees chip away.
By the 8th inning, the Yankees had trimmed the lead to 6-3, and then put 2 on with 1 out.
Still feeling pretty good. You're up 6-3. and then Jim Leyritz.
The catcher, Jim Leyritz, his first at bat of the night.
86-mile-an-hour slider from Mark Wohlers.
We all know Leyritz can hit a fastball, so I can't really fault the pitch selection.
Back to the slider on the 2-2 pitch.
I think Wohlers is going to the breaking ball too much. If you get beat, you want to get beat on your best pitch. Back at the track, at the wall, we are tied.
The ball went out of the park, and the life and the air and the breath came out of everybody affiliated with the Braves.
And in 10 innings, the Yankees hang on and win 8-6. This series is tied at 2 games apiece.
We lose 3, 4, and 5. We lose at home. How do you, we don't never do that. I thought we were done going into game 6.
Charlie Hayes has one. Yankees are the 96 World Champions.
96 changed everything. We're supposed to win in 96. That's 2 in a row. We run off 4 out of 5. I'm convinced. That's the one that got away when we had it.
Remarkably, the Braves still haven't won a World Series game since Game 2 in 1996. Even as their run of dominance at the top of the National League continued for 9 years afterwards.
If you wanted to represent the National League in the World Series for a decade and a half, the road came through Atlanta.
The Braves are the Eastern Division champion. For the 9th straight time, the Atlanta Braves are the National League Eastern Division champion.
A 13th straight division championship.
It's hard for even myself to comprehend. Yeah, you would have liked to stamp it a couple more times with some world championships, but the consistency and the excellence through that many years is unprecedented.
Let the celebrating begin, folks. 14 consecutive division titles for your Atlanta Braves.
14 straight division titles, but only the one World Series championship. It's a legacy you could say is defined both by a sense of awe at what they accomplished, but also a wondering about what could have been. From the outside, people will always view things any way they want. But the ones who built it, that lived it, that accomplished it, wouldn't trade what they didn't do for all that they did.
I don't think any one of us would have traded winning another World Series in exchange for winning all those division titles and having a chance every year to go to the playoffs and win a World Series.
There's something special about having a chance every year.
I think most people inside baseball, they're not going to say, oh yeah, they won the 95 World Series. They're going to say 14 straight division titles.
When you walked into Turner Field and you saw them pennants hanging up on that thing, you look up there and go, whoa, this is impressive to see.
We were proud of what we had accomplished, all of us together, shoulder to shoulder, players, manager, coaches, trainers.
I really do appreciate it, you bet. And, you know, we had great players all through that run. And, you know, we had a good thing going and we didn't want it to stop.
And the Braves have won 100 games.
Baseball's awesome. To play in the big leagues is special. To have a good career is special. It's even more special to share it with these guys.
That run for me was the greatest ride I'd ever have, and I wouldn't trade it for a second, even if it meant bouncing around and winning more rings. I had a blast.
Forget anything you guys want to add, stories, anything I didn't hit you with?
No, bugs are biting the out of me. Get out of here.
You're welcome.